And welcome into the Monday edition. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keys are here with you. Hope everybody had a fantastic weekend. Robby and Rexrode brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Joe, it's going to be a busy week this week. NFL free agency is upon us. The legal tampering period, I think, officially begins today at like 11 a.m. But there's all sorts of stuff going on. There's guys that have already been released. They're getting new contracts. There are guys that are already under contract getting new contracts around the league. It's a fun day, and we may actually have news on our show today, Joe, which is always fun.
We may. Also, there's a thing called March Madness, which is this week. I've been up since 2 a.m., had a terrible bout of insomnia, which is why I texted you guys about getting you coffee. So I'm probably going to be crankier than normal today. And I have to deal with this. Seth Greenberg just said Cooper Flagg is a mix of Jason Tatum, Grant Hill, and Scottie Pippen.
That's what he said.
That's right?
That's what
I have that right?
That's what the graphic said. I can only go by what the graphic said.
So
on TV.
I will say I'm also especially cranky on this topic because I have Duke fans at a column I wrote about how Janai Broome should be player of the year calling me very nasty things. And Cooper Flagg is great. A combination of Scottie Pippen, Grant Hill. First of all, people don't understand, like, Grant Hill, before he had the foot stuff, like, Grant Hill was an elite NBA player, like a top five. He was unbelievable. Cooper Flagg will never be that good.
Jeez.
Scottie, he won't.
Cooper Flagg taking some shots.
Cooper Flagg's great. He's going to be the number one overall pick. He's going to be a good NBA player. Scottie Pippen gets so much hate. It's amazing. Michael Jordan has 0 rings. 0 without Scottie Pippen being a star. 0. And then what was it? Oh, yeah, Jason. I just throw in Jason Tatum, too. Yeah, just one of the best. What is Jason Tatum right now? Top what in the league?
Well, he couldn't make the Olympic team, or couldn't get on the floor in the Olympic team. So
that is true. Steve Kerr hates him.
Yeah. Top 12.
Yeah.
In all seriousness, he's probably top 5.
Because I was going to say, I mean, like, you could make a case for him. I don't know if he's going to be like first team All-NBA. I think he has been.
I believe so.
But, he's top 10, right? You can safely say that. Yes, he's a combination of those 3 players. I mean, Seth Greenberg, man. Okay, I'm done. I don't think we need to do the rant, although I look forward to that, too, today.
That was like when my boy Adam Kimmelman came on our show from NHL.com, and we were going through, like, some of the draft prospects that the Predators could be looking at. He was like, this defenseman, Matt Schaefer, he's like I've heard combination of Scott Niedermayer and Cale Makar. It's like, well, good Lord. Might need to draft that kid if that's what he is. I think we need to rein the comparisons back in a little bit.
Yeah, this guy's a combo. He's a really good defensive player. Combo of Lawrence Taylor, Dick Butkus, and Ed Reed. It's really amazing. Wow. Plays all positions. Wow. Does everything.
Cam Ward, combo of Mahomes, Rodgers, and Johnny Unitas. It's unbelievable.
I was going to say it's Zach Wilson, but yeah.
Hey, Zach Wilson could be out there, could be available. We'll see today what happens.
Yeah, but you're right. I think we actually might have news that happens while our show goes on. Let's hope.
We're going to keep you updated on that as best we can today, as NFL free agency unofficially getting underway today. So it's going to be interesting to see what the activity level looks like. We got a lot to get into on that front that's happened already. So we'll take your thoughts on that. 615-737-1025, our phone number, including on the quarterback front, Joe. So Geno Smith gets traded from Seattle to the Raiders. And it leads to the question of, all right, well, how does that affect the rest of the market? You've got Darnold, who at this point doesn't look like he's going back to Minnesota based on the reporting around it. So is Seattle the landing spot for him? Now, the original reports this weekend after Geno Smith had been traded was that Seattle was going to target Darnold and that could be a landing spot for him. I still would probably guess that's the way it's going to go. Although I think Rossini put it out there earlier this morning that Aaron Rodgers and Seattle could talk. There's the Giants with Rodgers and Wilson, apparently, is what it's been nailed down to. With I think Jordan Raanan put that out there, who covers the Giants for ESPN, that Wilson and Rodgers is what it's going to come down to here. So you got all that floating in the background. You've got Seattle with another vacancy out there. And meanwhile, you've got, the Titans. What are other teams going to do on the free agent market? What's Pittsburgh going to do? They just made a big trade for DK Metcalf. So the quarterback part of this, I guess starting with Darnold and then Rodgers, is going to be very interesting to see how that shakes out either today or later this week.
Yeah, it seems like, well, the Minnesota thing, first of all, I'm confused because there's been, I mean, someone had a pretty extensive kind of post I think it was a tweet, but it was basically an NFL reporter. And yeah, this is me forgetting who and failing to credit, but about how, look, this is Minnesota. Like they're just embrace. It was like they've been good. Now they want to be great. That was the idea. And they think they can be great with J.J. McCarthy. They think that's the elevation, which I'm like, man, that's a lot to put on basically a rookie coming off an ACL. But okay. And then, as we talked about for the show, Rossini, Rappaport, both talking a lot about Rodgers to Minnesota. So I guess the idea being, okay, so you get 1 year more for JJ, buy that year with Aaron Rodgers instead of, again, it's almost weird to sit here and say that I think Sam Darnold is a better quarterback right now in the very moment we're speaking than Aaron Rodgers, but I think he might be. And maybe I'm overstating that, but that just seems like a weird play for the Vikings. Now they also like, the Daniel Jones thing is there too.
Which apparently there's some interest from Daniel Jones in Indianapolis that's been thrown out there as well.
Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson, get excited.
Indy Ben.
Indy Ben.
Good luck, brother.
Give us your thoughts,
All
Indy
right.
Ben, please.
Yeah, like it. I don't know what to think of the Minnesota thing. Like when the Darnold stuff started, and Charles and others last week were talking about how maybe the market for Darnold is not going to be as robust as maybe we think. Then you start to say, okay, well, if it's not going to be as robust as maybe we think, does that go back to Minnesota being the most logical landing spot for him and him playing another year there and then seeing what the market looks like maybe next year after that and they're ready to go with McCarthy? Let's say, Seattle makes some sense for him. Because right now, I don't really know what Seattle's doing. I mean, getting rid of Lockett is one thing. Metcalf has a trade request, and you followed through with it. So right now, your offense, your receiving core is awful. Go look at it. It's Jackson Smith and Jigba, and then a bunch of guys that no one's ever heard of. It's amazing. Now it's an offseason. You can add to that in free agency and in the draft.
NWI $20 million a year.
Could be. Maybe that might happen. But Darnold, if they're targeting him, my guess is you're giving him the contract that we've talked about of 3 or 4 years with some significant money attached to that. So, okay. Does Rodgers then make sense for Minnesota? Because from his standpoint, that's by far the best situation, right? No disrespect to the New York Giants, but I think I'd rather be the quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings right now. Pittsburgh's interesting with Metcalf joining the fold too. But from his standpoint, it would make a lot of sense. From their standpoint, is that the way you want to go, bringing in Rodgers for 1 year and then I guess turning it over to McCarthy after that? It feels like if you're just dismissing Darnold the way that it appears that they're going to heading into this, that they feel like McCarthy is ready. So if you feel like McCarthy is ready, why are you signing Aaron Rodgers? It's a weird way that this has all kind of gone down with Minnesota to me.
It is. So I'm wait and see if they actually do, because it just seems like it's more of, it's more of just go with JJ. Plus, so what are you paying Rodgers? And if, you're paying more than 40, probably, maybe not, I guess. Is Rodgers to the point now where he's only going to get 30 or something like that?
I would say, yeah, probably somewhere at that point.
Because I was going to say, otherwise, then just tag Darnold, but they obviously didn't do that. They didn't want to pay 40.
Yeah, I think with Minnesota, you may be able to get him in a little cheaper. Just because I do think it's pretty easy to look at and be like, well, you've got Justin Jefferson, you've got Jordan Addison, you've got Kevin O'Connell.
Do you want to
do you want to come win?
Right. Yeah.
I think you could try that and it may work. To me, if he's still playing, he's not playing for the money. The money is a thing, obviously, but he's made a ton of money, Like, to me, if he's still playing, it's because he wants to try to win, I think,
Right.
which is why the New York Giants just don't make any sense to me, but whatever. Maybe he just loves living in New York, I guess. But to me, if they're interested in him, it's a no-brainer for him. I just wonder if they're actually legitimately interested in him.
Yeah. I don't, I would never have guessed that, but you know, it's just really interesting to think about, what he is and to as much as he contributed to it, let's face it, the Jets are an absolute boiler pot of dysfunction, right?
Yeah.
So he goes to a place with a lot of things that are really good. Again, his numbers were good last year. I don't know. I bet you there's probably some widely varying opinions from different teams on what Aaron Rodgers is right now. And if he goes to Minnesota, we're gonna find out because there's no excuse for not winning. I mean, Darnold just won 14 games with that team.
Our friend Andrew has put something out on Twitter. Buck Rising says 2 names I've heard about Titans' interest: Zach Wilson and Mac Jones.
Boom. A mighty team that will not yield. That's going to become the Titans' new fight song.
Look, I mean,
you must take it from the Lions.
I don't doubt Andrew. Like, Andrew is pretty plugged in. So, but there you go. Zach Wilson and Mac Jones is 2 names that Buck Rising has heard that he's put out there.
The
on
Zach
interest.
Mac attack. We would like not to suck anymore, berserker.
So you're telling me that my dream of a Zach Wilson, Will Levis locker room lives on, baby. Be in there.
I mean, is there any way that they can do all 3? Zach, Mac, and Will. What a freaking,
I'll say this.
Those guys all down the town.
You get the 3 of those guys, I'd be taking the Titans into preseason games. You're going pretty deep in the well on the quarterback front in the preseason.
That's a great point. Be dusting people in August.
That's right.
Wow.
615-737-1025. Our phone number. NFL free agency underway unofficially, and there's a lot happening in the NFL. We'll take your thoughts on all of it. 615-737-1025. A former Titan is on the move to a very familiar landing spot. We'll get into that coming up next as well. A lot happening. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Taking your thoughts on the Titans, NFL free agency. Buck Rising putting it out there that two names of interest that he's hearing about the Titans are Zach Wilson and Mac Jones.
We call him Andrew around here.
We do.
Andrew, the replies on your tweet are already amazing. The bags and the heads. Can I just, you know who I love, who I think is great? We've had him on the friend of the show. Provides excellent content for Paul Garski, Mike Herndon. This is what he tweeted. He says, I actually don't hate the idea of Zach Wilson. There are no good QBs on the market unless you want a big for Darnold. So if you're going to have to settle for a bad QB option, might as well be one with some potential untapped upside. And I quote tweeted him and said, Nashville is down bad. I mean, I typically agree with Mike Herndon on probably 95-ish% of the potential untapped upside. Now, this is very subjective, and I'm going to have to raise my hand and admit I have not followed closely along with Zach Wilson, although, as you pointed out, Zach Wilson in Nashville down there on Broadway would be an interesting thing.
Yeah, you're asking for some distractions out there.
People of a variety of ages are down there on a regular basis in a partying mood. But I just don't really see the potential untapped upside. And what am I missing something
He
here?
had an impressive pro day.
Yeah, he did. He lit up the Titans.
In all seriousness, the one thing that I will
years
again
ago.
go back to is he played quarterback for the New York Jets. And maybe sometimes it's just as simple as, yeah, as bad as you think a guy is, maybe sometimes they're that bad. And maybe other times it's they played quarterback for the New York Jets.
Mark Sanchez would have been the greatest quarterback of all time had he not been saddled with that franchise. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't see, like, honestly, of those two, I would, of those two, in all seriousness, it's hard to be serious about Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, but I'm going to try. I would definitely pick Mac Jones, but based on what I've seen.
Yeah, I think I would too.
I mean, honestly, he looked pretty good here last year against a very overestimated defense that had a total defense number that inflated what it was. But still, I mean, he looked okay.
I mean, I will say, from an entertainment value standpoint, Zach Wilson could be interesting. The Zach Wilson, Will Levis combo room. There's a lot of meat on that bone, Joe, in terms of the entertainment value that could take place. Some turnovers that could be just unbelievable out there with those
turnovers and just some cool dudes, man.
Yeah. Yeah, there's that.
Cool dudes, bros being bros. Okay.
I mean, apparently Aaron Rodgers is going to be an option for every team in search of a free agent quarterback right now. We've talked about the Giants and the Vikings, and a couple of minutes ago, Adam Schefter putting this out there that the Steelers are continuing to speak with Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, but that Aaron Rodgers has now emerged as a quarterback option in Pittsburgh. They're expected to talk and explore a union. The idea of Rodgers playing for Mike Tomlin is in play. This is from Adam Schefter.
I have always thought that one was interesting. And even like last week, I mean, I guess I hadn't really, and before even like last week, whenever whoever was talking about like the Rodgers Tomlin, mutual admiration society. But even before that, like, that's one of those things, like, the Steelers are one of those teams that it's like, you got some guys right now who are very good, but getting a little bit late in their best stage. And, you got DK. To me, DK, I understand like Pickens is a headache and all that stuff, but DK and Pickens together, is pretty interesting. So a Rodgers makes sense for them. If it's like, okay, let's see the absolute best he can give us. He's coming to the most stable, sound franchise in pro sports. And so even his weird crap isn't going to mess that up. And let's just tap into the talent.
Yeah. Like Pittsburgh, I think it makes a lot of sense for him. The Minnesota part of this is going to be so interesting to see what they do. And then if you're a Titans fan out there and Zach Wilson and Mac Jones are the names being thrown out, it's like, oh, great. Awesome.
I'm going to email the Detroit Lions today and just petition to see if they can lend their fight song to the Titans.
Yeah. when they may need it for a while.
Down the field and gain a Titans victory. I think it works. You know, like Titans, Lions, like you don't have to really change much.
Yeah, it just kind of is. It is what it is.
So yeah, like George on the YouTube chat, I agree, Andrew. Yeah, I mean, basically, I would have to. It's hard to argue against this. That like if this is the idea, then it's a tank. I mean, you know, of course they want to win next year. Nobody in that building is like, let's suck next year. But like, I mean, if I'm Brian Callahan, aren't you
start
just
packing?
Yeah, like I just like what do you? I think that you said this off the air, but like, or maybe you said on the air. I don't know, but like, if this is the case and this is where you're going, I mean, I think there's a stronger case to draft a QB then. Right?
Yeah, like I mean, I wonder. I mean, they had Cam Ward in their building over the weekend, right? They had him in on Friday, and like if your plan is Zach Wilson or Mac Jones coming in, like does that tell you in the back of your mind that they're drafting Cam Ward? Like honestly, though, if your plan was to draft Cam Ward, wouldn't you want like a veteran quarterback in there with a little bit more experience? Like Mac Jones has been around, but Zach Wilson is not like your veteran backup quarterback mentor that I think you're looking for, right?
No, right. I mean, yeah, like these are young guys. You know, these are reclamation project young guys. It doesn't really fit with that. It's just some names that Andrew threw out there. Okay, it's not nothing has happened.
They've not done anything.
Nothing has happened. But get ready. We're greasing the skids here for you.
Look, nothing has happened, but you got Andrew throwing that out there. You've got Kuharski on our show last week talking about how, I mean, I wouldn't expect them to be involved with Darnold. And some of the names he brought up, or it would be more in like the Mac Jones, Jameis Winston type of range when it comes to those quarterbacks that we know they're not going to cost a lot of money this offseason. So, I mean, that's pretty consistent. Maybe not for specific guys, but that's pretty consistent messaging with some of the stuff coming out there on what these folks are hearing.
Yeah. Well, look, we'll see how it shakes out, but I mean, in either of these cases, I'd love to know, two things. If they sign either one of these guys, what is it that they see, especially if it's Zach Wilson? That one to me, I understand the Jets.
Yeah.
Like, the Jets, like the opposite of the Jets tax. It's like the Jets discount, right? But still, that's a tough one. And then again, like, what is your long-term vision at the position? Because I can't believe that anybody in this league who runs a team actually thinks that either of those guys is gonna grow into, being something substantial. Again, I would argue that Darnold could, and I know I stopped talking about Darnold because it's not happening here, but like I've seen something from him now that tells me that is possible. It could be a Tannehill type of situation for you.
Yeah.
These guys, I
will say,
I can't see it, man.
Well, I can't really either, but I will say, like, we have seen Mac Jones play good football in the NFL. Like, he played good in his first year. And as we talked about,
for a rookie,
then Bill Belichick decided to go crazy and make Matt Patricia his offensive coordinator. And it all kind of went downhill from there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. No, you're right. That season did happen. And then he didn't handle it well, but it's hard to, I guess it's really hard to blame him being furious that he had to deal with Matt Patricia as
his first year, he threw for 22 touchdowns, 3,800 yards, 13 interceptions, and they were 10-7 that year with him. Now, again, it's the Patriots. They did not have like superstar wide receiver play or anything like that. And those numbers are good. It's not like they're fantastic, unbelievable numbers. They're good numbers. And then it started to go downhill after that. I mean, next year he had 14 touchdowns, 11 picks. The year after that, he had 10 touchdowns, 12 picks, threw for 2,100 yards. It started to go the other way. So, I mean, I say he's had a good year. He has, like his first year for a rookie, especially, was pretty good. But we've seen a lot of quarterbacks come in and look pretty good early and then fade. And it's not necessarily just because their situation was bad, is because they came in the league, people got some tape on them and figured them out. So
Right.
is that what happened with Mac Jones, or is there a chance that he can still play good football?
Yeah, it's a good question. Right now, he's sitting there at 54 touchdowns, 44 picks, 6.7 attempt, 84.9 rating. It's not great. How much
Doesn't get you excited.
Yeah, how much do you attribute to Belichick screwing him up? Some. Again, I like him better than Zach Wilson. I'll say that for him. I definitely will say that.
615-737-1025, our phone number. Some other moves that have gone down in the NFL. A lot of money being thrown around that is becoming very interesting. We'll get into that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Robby and Rexrode brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keys are here with you on this Monday morning. NFL free agency unofficially underway. Taking your thoughts on that, 615-737-1025. Joe, a former Titan, is on the move to a landing spot that is not all that surprising.
Mm-hmm.
Harold Landry signing with the New England Patriots and Mike Vrabel yesterday. So he was released officially by the Titans over the weekend, and he has signed a 3-year, $43.5 million deal with New England that includes $26 million in guaranteed money. So this coming out yesterday, Harold Landry reuniting with Mike Vrabel in New England. Your thoughts on that move for Landry, that move for the Patriots and Vrabel?
Well, when Vrabel gives NWI $20 million a year, 5 years, $100 million today, then we can really celebrate. I'm not surprised that Vrabel went after Landry. And I'll reiterate what I said before. You know, part of why Vrabel went after Landry is because Landry is absolutely a pro who sets a standard in a locker room, who goes about his business, does his job, and I think was worth looking into or considering. And I'm not saying the Titans didn't, but just as, you know, a pay cut candidate and someone you'd want to keep around. They didn't. I'll also say I'm a little surprised about those numbers. Those numbers are, I mean, good for Harold Landry. I would not have expected him to get quite that much. Let's see. So his Titans deal in 22 was 5 for 87. So, 3 for 43. Obviously, that's a step down, but that's pretty good for him to get another deal like that and to get 26 guaranteed.
Yeah, I thought the money for him, given the situation that he's in, is pretty good. I'm interested to see what he's got left in the tank. As we discussed with him, the sack total has not dropped off dramatically, right? Like he ended up with 9.5 last year. So like it's not like the production from that standpoint has dropped off. Now, if you look at pressure rates and honestly, if you just watch him play, I think it's pretty clear that he's not the same guy that he was.
He finishes the deal at a tremendous rate for what
Correct.
he does, but he doesn't pressure enough.
Correct. So, 10.5 sacks in 2023 and 9 last year. His big year was 12 in 2021, and that's when he got the deal. And of course, he got hurt the next year, and Titans been on the ropes ever since then. So, it didn't work out the way that you hoped it would in terms of like the competitiveness of the team, and you paying him at the same time, paying your pass rusher at the same time, and that lining up. I would love to know behind the scenes, like how much consideration was given to either asking him for a pay cut. Did they ask him for a pay cut and he said no, and it was just the idea of moving on from him the whole time? Or was this something that, is when Mike Borgonzi got here and he and Chad Brinker were going through their offseason plan, did they identify pretty quickly that Harold Landry was not going to be a part of it moving forward?
And look, and I don't know, also just with the coaching staff. I mean, obviously he was drafted by Vrabel, Robinson and Vrabel, his entire career with Vrabel, winning, all that. And then you get a new staff coming in, and sometimes it just doesn't mix well,
Yeah.
You get a player like that, you get a new coaching staff, new defense and all that stuff. And so maybe it was clear to both sides, on his side and the coaching side, it's just not really a fit. So, very interested to see how much he has left. I think that's a little bit rich for him based on what we've seen. But, Vrabel's getting the gang back together, man. Vrabel's – I can't wait to see who else. Is Aaron Brewer available? I don't know if Aaron Brewer is out there as a – I need to check that out. If he's not available, then there are also trades.
Yes, there are.
Aaron Brewer, you are a Patriot.
Some other news on the pass rushing front. So Myles Garrett sticking around in Cleveland, and he has agreed to a record-breaking contract extension after requesting a trade earlier this offseason. He's got a new deal that averages more than $40 million a year and includes $123.5 million in guaranteed money, which makes him the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history, which is hilarious from a couple of different standpoints, Joe. Number one of, I don't want to be in Cleveland. They can't win here. I'm out. To, okay, well, I'll make $40 million a year. Also, like if you're Cincinnati today, their GM has talked about, like he's gone on record saying that they're going to make Jamar Chase the highest paid non-quarterback in the league. Well, that number just went up, so have fun with that.
Yeah, you got a new standard to reach. On the Garrett front, I mean, I agree, but also remember, he can't trade himself.
I know.
So, like, I believe him that he wanted to get the hell out of there. I do believe him, but they didn't make a trade. No one was willing to give up whatever the heck they were asked for, which is probably half the world. So then at some point it's like, well, I'm under contract. I guess I'll take the biggest possible one they could give me and just hope that somehow you guys stop screwing it up.
Yeah. I mean, it's very interesting. Now, I'm with you, I guess. Like, I agree that it's hard to blame him for wanting out. Now, it didn't last very long at the grand scheme of things in terms of like the dragging this out. Like, you're going to pay me that much money? Sure. Where do I sign? I'll be back. Like,
that's the thing.
They could have made it very clear to him that, hey, I understand you want to trade. We're not trading you, so get that out of your mind. And maybe it's as simple as that. I'm just saying, like, in the totality of this thing, the standoff between him and the Browns did not last very long.
Yeah.
On this thing.
Yeah, I'd love to know, like, did anybody, I mean, he's a great player. Like, did anybody call them and actually offer anything massive? I'm sure, like, on their end, it had to be insane. So, well, more Cleveland Browns work for you, Miles.
Davante Adams has signed with the LA Rams yesterday on a 2-year deal. So he gets released from the Jets and goes to LA at age 32. We've talked about him and how much he's got left in the tank. I still think he's a very, very good receiver. Is he still an elite level number 1 wide receiver? We'll find out. But at that landing spot with the Rams, with Puka Nacua and Stafford and McVay and Kyron Williams and the pieces they've got on offense, I like that fit for him. I like that fit for them, and they got a chance to be pretty good.
I mean, if you're a Rams fan, you went from a couple weeks ago, like, crap, lose Stafford. Who the heck's going to quarterback this team? I guess Darnold, and I don't know. And now, Cooper Kupp is toast, and and now it's like, Stafford throwing to Puka Nacua and Davante Adams with what they got last year on defense. Yep, sign me up for that. Rams fans have to be the most, like, rejuvenated fan base of the last couple of weeks of the entire league. That's a good team.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a chance to be pretty good. And the thing is, like, part of why they're moving on from Kupp is, I guess, number one, they don't feel like he can play well anymore. And number two, like, they have drafted well, and they do have a lot of young, really good pieces. And you bring him in, and look, obviously Adams is a different type of guy than Kupp was. Like, he's going to play. He can play in the slot, but he can play anywhere, and he's going to win one-on-one outside. And I just, when you watch that guy do his thing and he's on his game, he's tough to handle. So how much of that does he have left at age 32? We're going to see. Like, injuries haven't really been a huge problem with him. So I guess that's what you feel good about if you're the Rams. Whereas, Kupp, obviously the last couple of years, injuries have been the story for him.
I mean, if you're Davante Adams, obviously you had a heck of a time with the Raiders in the quarterback situation. Yep. He made that very clear. Don't blame him, but he made it very clear. And then he reunites with Rodgers, and it just, if you're him, because right now I don't think there's any question. Stafford still has his fastball. Rodgers does not have the full arsenal still that he was at his best. So
for sure, if
you're Davante Adams, you got to be thrilled with this. This is going to be. He's definitely a guy who we're going to know exactly how much he has left based on where he is now.
Well, we brought it up earlier, but what did you make of the Metcalf trade to Pittsburgh? He ends up now with George Pickens as the 1-2 duo in Pittsburgh. We'll see who their, quarterback is next year as they get through the free agency part of this, but he goes to Pittsburgh in exchange for a second-round draft pick and also agrees to a 5-year, $150 million contract extension as well.
Yeah, it's I mean, I love it. And I think there's a lot of debate around the Steelers in terms of, okay, so now you got DK in so you can stop with the George Pickens headaches. I disagree. I mean, you have to live with a certain amount of, of goofiness from George Pickens, and that's a heck of a tandem. And now you have to just, I guess Rodgers, it could be the answer. But I think Darnold has got to be like, you might need to get into a little bit of a bidding war with Seattle if that's what is going to unfold here with Sam Darnold. You got to get serious at quarterback.
615-737-1025, our phone number. A lot of your thoughts to get to on the free agency front. We'll do that coming up next. Continue to keep you updated on the latest happenings in the league.
Hey, real quick, I do want to shout out Charles Robinson because I believe that he scooped on our show. If I'm not mistaken, he scooped he told us about the trade, right?
Yes.
With the Seattle trade, but also DK and the Steelers. Yep. I think he mentioned too. So good job, Charles. We should give him a raise.
Why we have Charles on every week.
Yeah,
he's the best there is. So make sure you tune into that every Thursday at 8 a.m. More coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership with a buzz. is always about great service. NFL free agency, unofficially, getting underway today. The legal tampering period beginning. Some guys that have already been released from their previous teams coming to deals over the weekend. For a moment, Joe, it was like a 2-hour stretch yesterday where it was like one thing after the other. It was like the Myles Garrett contract, the DK Metcalf trade. You had the Josh Allen extension where he had like 3 years left on his deal and then just got paid an absolute boatload of money. I was like, wow. I mean, this feels like free agency already. It's just one thing after the other happening. It was fun to watch.
It is, yes.
Yeah.
And lots of stuff. Now, someone on YouTube chat was just like, "Oh, the Titans just lost Darnold to Pittsburgh," but I must have read that incorrectly. But there's nothing official there yet.
I've not seen that,
but maybe we'll have something, during the show. By the way, Deagle on YouTube says Joe's always 1 year behind. He slandered Darnold all last offseason. Now Zach Wilson. I'm thinking we get number one next year too. I slandered Darnold all last offseason. Did we?
I mean, you
talk
probably
about Sam
did.
Darnold?
You probably did because Stilly was all in on the Sam Darnold hype train, talking about how he was good.
Well, I definitely remember him, and credit to him because Darnold had a really good year and changed my mind about it. But did we? Other than I guess making fun of Stilly,
I mean, I don't think we spent a ton of time talking about Darnold.
Yeah,
last year.
Slandered him all off season. Well, I guess now you're right. A year behind. And everybody's just about to find out about Zach Wilson. You're about to find. If you don't know, you're going to know.
I mean, look, maybe Borgonzi sees something and he says, you know what? I like the tools he's got. He's going to be our quarterback next year.
Yeah. Hey. Look, I'm not going to sit here.
That's why they get paid the big bucks.
Exactly. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I watch. I try not to watch Zach Wilson. I try not to.
We may have to.
Yes, that may be unavoidable very soon here in Nashville, Tennessee.
Again, Buck Rising putting it out there earlier this morning that a couple of names he's hearing the Titans may have interest in are Mac Jones and Zach Wilson. So, again, nothing has happened. There's been no deal. There's nothing that's gone down on that front yet. It's just couple names that Buck is hearing. So a lot of level-headed reaction to that.
Andrew, you can't lead us astray here. If you're going to throw something like that out there, I expect this to happen. Do not tease with these two names and then not let it happen. So
if you don't, Rexrode's going to pull a Jeff Simmons on you. You'll be very upset.
Yes, that I may, and I will follow through with it too. So at Major Mark West says the amount of people, this is on Twitter, even in media, who can't see how these QBs are Mason Rudolph upgrades as backups and not starters is crazy to me. First of all, again, I don't think either of these guys. I mean, Mac Jones was Trevor Lawrence's backup.
Yeah,
but I don't think either of these guys is an ideal backup quarterback candidate.
Well, certainly not for a rookie. To me, if you're saying that, you're assuming the Titans are drafting Cam Ward, which is fine. At this point, that may be the way I hope they go. But
yeah, I mean, that may be, if that's the case, then okay.
But the point is, is Zach Wilson really the best option to have as a backup quarterback with Cam Ward in the building? Is Mac Jones the best option to have as a backup quarterback with Cam Ward in the building?
Yeah, I would take Jameis Winston.
Yeah, I think I would too.
I mean, again, yes, he may come in and again, very much like that Fitz magic thing. He might come in and throw for 403 touchdowns, might come in and throw 3 picks real fast. But as a backup mentor type person, he's been in this league for 10 years. Like Mason Rudolph is he's the quintessential backup quarterback, safe game manager. That's different from Jameis. So I guess if you're thinking in terms of the backup quarterback as a safe game manager, right, then Jameis also doesn't fit the bill. But those guys don't either, to me. But again, yeah, it's like if they sign one of those guys, it's going to be very much, okay, either you're drafting a quarterback at the top of the draft or it's going to be one heck of a season in Nashville, Tennessee.
I can't believe that I've let this show go 52 minutes and we've not gotten to this report that I saw late last night yet. This is from Connor Hughes who covers the Jets
Yep.
and the Giants for SNY up there in New
My
York.
former coworker.
Yep. He said, the Jets' interest in Justin Fields is well known. It's up to Fields to decide if he wants to play for the Jets. He'll return to Pittsburgh to play with DK Metcalf and George Pickens. If he does that, I'd expect the Jets to turn their attention to Marcus Mariota and Carson Wentz. This was what Connor Hughes
What?
put out there. I'm telling you what it
gets
says.
better and better.
I'm telling you what it says. It says if Justin Fields goes to play in Pittsburgh, I would expect the Jets to turn their attention to Mariota and Wentz.
Tweets from 2017. My goodness.
Marcus, he could be back in the fold.
Or the Wentz wagon.
Yeah.
My goodness. That is just, there are so many exciting possibilities out there at the quarterback position. I guess I should lay off the Titans.
I mean, I think I may take Marcus over Wentz. I think I actually might. Like Wentz will throw some doozies, man.
For a Marcus hater like you,
I know.
that says something.
It's my quarterback.
There's my guy. There's my guy.
Man.
So, I mean, look, that's one report. It's from Connor Hughes, but that's what he said. Would expect the Jets to turn their attention to Mariota and Wentz if they can't land Justin Fields. What a triumvirate that is. Justin Fields, Marcus Mariota, and Carson Wentz.
Tell you what, you can run around. You can run around a lot with those three guys.
Yeah. And
I don't know if Wentz can run.
That kind of tells me the Jets may be heavily in the market to draft a quarterback, but we'll see.
Yeah, you would think that. So people, by the way, Vrabel, we're talking Vrabel's, getting the game back together. Cody Hollister.
Yeah.
Watch out for Cody Hollister in New England. Send out the Cody Hollister
Kern coming out of
signal.
Let's get Kern come out of retirement so you can run another reverse with him.
Yeah, there you go. Hey Brett, do you still have any limbs? Here, we'll take care of that.
615-737-1025, our phone number. What do you want to see the Titans do as NFL free agency gets underway? We'll present some of those options. Take your thoughts on that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5-106.3 The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Monday morning. We'll be joined by Cory Curtis from News 2 for his weekly visit coming up at 8 o'clock. And we'll get into some NFL free agency, which unofficially begins today. The legal tampering period opening up later today, Joe. And some moves already being made across the league for guys who have been released. We've seen trades in the NFL. So we have officially arrived to the busy portion of the NFL offseason. The question is, what are the Titans going to do? What's in store for the Titans over the next few days here as NFL free agency gets underway? Now, a big area that we've identified that is clearly a need for them is on the offensive line. And to begin the offseason, Joe, a couple of guys that we talked about were Trey Smith with Kansas City. Could the Titans pursue him? He has since been tagged by Kansas City, and they're continuing to try to work on a deal there. Ronnie Stanley, another guy that we threw out there of maybe an option from Baltimore that could come in and could play, I guess, left tackle. You could move Latham back over to the right. I guess you could put Ronnie Stanley at right tackle if you felt like Latham needed to be your left. Well, he's not going anywhere. He signed a 3-year deal with Baltimore over the weekend. So that's the thing about NFL free agency. You can look at it on the surface in the offseason, and by the time it actually gets here, the options have dwindled quite a bit out there.
Yeah, it's like when we talked about Ronnie Stanley before, it was like, well, if Baltimore lets him go, it probably tells you a little something, right? Well, they didn't. So probably tells you that he's still pretty good, but you also have no shot at him. So the top of the hopeful top of the list of the free agents on the offensive line turns out to be a fantasy top of the list.
Yeah, and by all accounts, this doesn't seem to be a great free agent class in general, even with those guys heading into it. So when you have some of your upper echelon offensive line options off the board, it leaves you asking, what's the rest of the week going to look like? Now, look, there's still guys out there that you can find. There are going to be some options that the Titans are going to sign an offensive lineman here at some point. I don't know who it's going to be.
Multiple.
I don't know if it's going to be like some huge deal or anything like that, but they're going to go sign some offensive linemen. So can you find the right ones that can come in and finally start to upgrade this thing that's been a problem for them for 3 years? Like we're all going to focus in on quarterback, and I get it. It's going to be very interesting to see what the Titans do at the quarterback position here. But whether it's edge rusher, whether it's offensive line, how deep into the weeds of this wide receiver pool, which frankly is not all that impressive in free agency, do the Titans get? Do they sign somebody there? Like there's still a lot of work left to be done. And as we discussed heading into this, and Mike Borgonzi, I thought at the NFL Combine, that was one thing I kind of took away from it that's meaningful. Like, I think they're going to be pretty active. I don't think they're necessarily going to break the bank for guys in free agency, but I think they're going to be pretty active in this free agency period. I think you kind of have to be when you have as many holes as they've got on the, really every single side of the football you want to think of: offensive, defensive, special teams. They could all use work.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at like trying to keep up with like our tracker and free agents. And, you get into, offensive tackles, the way we at the Athletic tier it, like I'm going down to tier 3. There's some guards. Will Freeze.
Yep.
Is there as a potential answer. There's some interior linemen, but man, like tackle, it's slim pickings all of a sudden, and I think they have to sign. They have to sign at least one interior. There, there's other guys like Ben Bredeson and things like that. Again, there's a lot of guards out there. Scherf is another guy. Again, you get into it's like, these a lot of times these guys, their names. They've been in the league a long time, or at least a certain amount of time, and in a lot of cases, are not as good. Yeah, tier 5. This is how we describe tier 5. Old guys who can still play but could retire at any time. And right there, you got your Morgan Moses.
Yeah.
At offensive tackle. Tyron Smith. My goodness, you're getting into some you're getting into some, but that's where you also can at times make some good value pickups. And the Titans, it wouldn't be that hard to upgrade their offensive line. The question is, how much are they going to upgrade it?
Yeah, exactly. And does it get to the point where is there a scenario where you can get into the season this year and not just feel okay about your offensive line? Like, can you feel good about it? Is that conceivable with where they're at with it right now? Now, some of that's going to be how big of a step does Latham take from year 1 to year 2, right? Like, is Skoronski and Latham, do they kind of pick up where they left off last year and build on that pretty significantly? Like, for both of those guys, it was an up and down year. Like, I thought Skoronski kind of started the year pretty terribly and then got better as the year went on. Latham, I think, kind of started the opposite. Like, I thought he was pretty good. He was up and down, and then as the year went on, I thought he kind of got worse during the last few games. So, is that just hitting a rookie wall? That we see that happen in the NFL. I still largely feel good about him.
Me
So,
too.
a big part of your answer is going to be like, what are those two guys next year? But you've got to find a way for the right side of your offensive line in particular to not just be a total turnstile out there like it was for the majority of last season. And if you can't do that, then it doesn't really matter what else you do in free agency. It's going to be a tough go.
Yeah, you have to. You probably have to figure out something at center for early part of the season.
Yes.
That's another real issue here. But I agree. It's like those two guys on the left side, and this is where I think they're both talented. I definitely think I'm with you. I'm definitely more optimistic about Latham right now. We've only had 1 year of him. It was some rookie ups and downs with a lot of issues around him. I feel pretty good about him. Maybe he's better on the right side. I don't know. If you can get a true left tackle, get a tackle who has played that, maybe you could experiment with that. But either way, he's got to be a big-time player. Skoronski, I still think can be, a good starter for you, and that's essential. And again, that's where like Bill Callahan, the impact has to be there. But I agree with the texter who says today's goal is to fix the right side of the line, and you have to do whatever you can to try.
Well, it's interesting. We bring up offensive guard. So Pete Prisco for CBS Sports, who is a senior NFL columnist. Have we had him on the show? I can't remember if we had Prisco on the show or not.
Maybe.
A potential friend of the show. Put this out there yesterday. Said, word around the league is the guard market is going to be outrageous. Good players will be getting great player money. That's the danger of free agency. That's what Pete Prisco put out there.
Sure. Of course, you're gonna have to overpay, and I think that there is, as we've talked about, there's a little bit of a Titans tax in terms of just the fact that the Titans are bad. But I think the Titans are going to be overpaying some people here, but that's okay. If you overpay, if you have a whatever tier 4 guy and you pay tier 2 money, if it's a good player, if he gives you what you're hoping he gives you, then that's what it is. That's what has to happen. You overpay in free agency. What you want to do is draft good players and then keep them, but they're not in that position right now.
They are not. So
not very many positions at all.
They're not. So what would you like to see the Titans do in NFL free agency? We'll take your thoughts on that. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. More coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. NFL free agency going down this week. What do you want to see the Titans do in free agency? Taking your thoughts on that, 615-737-1025. Let's head to our 1025 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Larry to the program. Larry, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Hey, guys. How you guys doing today?
Good, Larry.
Great.
All right. My suggestions are, now listen, I'm just an armchair quarterback here. Go get Josh Sweat and get one of those quarterbacks. Get a Mac Jones. Get a Justin Fields. Get one of those guys. Listen, as a longtime Cubs fan, you know, when we were rebuilding in 11, 12, 13, we had early draft picks. That's what the Titans ain't going to win the Super Bowl next year. The whole ultimate goal of this thing is to win the Super Bowl. So you take one of those quarterbacks, have them and Levis play it out. Whoever one is the best one, have them go out there, and you try to get a Super Bowl contender. Just winning 5-6 games, that doesn't do nothing for you, but kick the ball down the can there a little bit.
Thanks for the call, Larry. Appreciate it. So Larry embracing the idea of the tank there at the quarterback position. What do you make of the other idea through out there of Josh Sweat? Titans do need to do something at edge rusher. I'm sure some of it's going to come in the draft, but what do you make of the idea that you threw out there of Josh Sweat?
Tier 1. Josh Sweat, Tier 1. He's going to get paid a lot of money and more than he's worth, but he's a good player. And look, I'm kind of the mind of, yeah, spend money, you know. I think I'll be very interested to see what the market is for him. Obviously, a tremendous postseason run. Love his sack celebration. Good to very good player. Might get paid like a great player. Do you want to pay him like a great player? I mean, look, you need edges.
I mean,
you need edges for sure. Now the draft is that's one place. The draft is good. What else are you looking at? Khalil Mack,
Joey Bosa.
He's out there. Yeah, like to me, Joey Bosa. Actually, I had this argument with Brennan, and I'm like, have you noticed that he barely plays anymore because he's always hurt? I mean, I understand he used to be amazing, but like this is the type of player you avoid. Malcolm Kuntz. You got Chase Young. We've talked about him.
Yeah.
You know, I was a little bit surprised to see the Lions. If you're going to take the Lions fight song, you know, what about Big Z? Lions let Big Z go. Big Z's been talked about here in other years as a possibility.
I think he is like contractually obligated to play in Chicago now to finish out the NFC North tour that he's on.
Is that
He's been in Green Bay. He's been in Minnesota. He's been in Detroit. Just finish it off.
Gosh,
Chicago.
I forgot he'd been in Minnesota. Yeah, that does make sense. Reddick is out there. I mean, you know, a lot of guys.
Yeah.
DeMarcus Lawrence is out there, but you know, it's a lot of, again, it's like names of players who once were great, and then this league chips away at you.
There's an idea out there that Joey Bosa may end up in San Francisco. Obviously, his brother plays there, so that's where the idea originates from. But apparently, he's keen on that idea, and also the Miami Dolphins could be on the Joey Bosa list there. So
okay, yeah, I just man, it's hard to believe at this point that he's going to get past all the injury stuff.
Josh Sweat, like you said, he's a good player. The last 3 years for him, he had 11 sacks in 2022. He had 6.5 in 2023, 8 last year in 2024. Now, the thing about him is he's pretty durable, man. Like, he plays a lot. Like, he's played 17 games in 23. He played 16 games this past year, 16 games the year before. Like, he's a durable guy. And as you said, had a really good run there in the postseason. So I'm interested to see what he ends up. Like, that's a spot where if I'm the Titans right now, I don't mind overpaying a little bit because you're kind of desperate in that spot. I know that they're going to, whether it's Abdul Carter or somebody else, at some point they're going to draft an edge rusher in the draft. So I understand that. I think you need both. I think you need to draft somebody, and you need to go out and be fairly aggressive on the edge rusher front in the market this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, especially letting Harold Landry go. Like, whatever you think about Harold Landry, I mean, sure, ideally, you know, he could have been your third guy, you know, but he's not there. You need depth. You need everything.
Well, it's part of the strategy of letting him go because they have a guy or two in mind in particular in free agency that they're going to move heaven and earth to go get.
Could be. And maybe they will be I know there's a lot of, you'll hear, like Kaharski being this week, and every year there's all this, don't get the guys at the top. That's where it really gets crazy with the overpaying. You go a little bit deeper down the list of the free agents, and you can still get good players. You can do, the 1-year deals. Kaharski talked about this with the Commanders. The 1 year, the ton of 1-year deals last year. They rebuilt the team. They hit on a bunch of them. They had a tremendous pick up a bunch of kind of guys up the scrap heap, and they got good seasons out of a ton of them. So that's a strategy that I think the Titans will employ. I think it makes sense, but that doesn't mean to me that you just dismiss the idea of a Josh Sweat. If you can get a player like that, you're going to pay a ton, but you are better. You have a guy who is a proven pass rusher in the NFL. Right now, you don't have that.
I got one texter asking about Von Miller. So Von Miller got cut from the Bills in a cost-saving move. He's 35. He will be 36 in like 2 weeks. Von Miller, first off, I don't think he would have any interest in coming here. That's just me. Like, to me, if Von Miller is going to continue to play, he's probably ring chasing.
Again, unless somebody gives him insane money, but that's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen at age 36. So I would not get your hopes up for Von Miller. And again, he's 36. He got hurt in 2023, and it just did not go well for him that year. He actually, like this past year, he played in, 13 games. He had 6 sacks. So for a 35-year-old, that's not bad. It just, Von Miller's best days by far are behind him at this point. And I would assume that if he continues to play, it's going to be somewhere where he feels like, he can be a part of the rotation and can come in and help a team potentially win a championship.
Yeah. It's at this point, it's just, do you really want to do that? Again, unless there's some insane difference in pay, you really want to do that and go 6-11 at this point in your life? Probably not.
Probably not.
Texter brings up a good point about that color, the old kicking the ball down the can. I have never heard it. So he's kicking the ball down the can.
Hard to do.
Interesting. I get what you were saying.
Hey, sometimes you got to kick the ball down the can.
But I'm glad someone else made fun of him, and I'm just reading it. Okay.
I got somebody saying that we shouldn't lie to ourselves that we don't want another Kentucky player. I guess we hate all Kentucky players now. Who was the Kentucky player that we were discussing?
Yeah. Who is that?
We've gone through a lot of names. I don't remember the Kentucky player we discussed.
Yeah, I don't either. Who are we referencing here?
But hey, if you could find a Kentucky player that, is a good football player, I'll take him if you're the Titans. I have no qualms about taking Kentucky players.
Not at all. Well, I mean, Avery Williamson was a nice player here, right?
Yeah.
So there's one.
There you go.
I'll take the
latest Kentucky player they took did not work out great in Will Levis, but
not yet. I would take the slot receiver whose name eludes me, who plays for the Giants.
Oh God, what is his name?
Good player.
I mean, I could see his face in front of me. How am I forgetting his name?
Wait, Barron? No,
it's not that.
Oh God, you can't have senior moments. I already have senior moments.
You know how many names we've thrown out there today?
I know. Grant on the YouTube chat, by the way, says that a Colts reporter, not sure who, but says the Titans are going to be going after Freeze heavily.
Okay.
So there you go. I think, that makes sense for sure. I think the Titans, I'd like to see the Titans sign. I'd like to see the Titans get 3 offensive line. Now, remember.
By the way, it's Wan'Dale Robinson.
Good
you.
Lord. What a bear. Oh, yeah, he plays for them now. Yeah, Wan'Dale, great player. Not great player, very good player. Kentucky player I would have on my team for sure. But, remember this with the Titans. If they, again, if they're going, there is an order to these things, right? Typically. Yep. And Woodyard, there's another good one right there. Kentucky player. But there's an order to these things. So we may be waiting a little bit. If the Titans are dipping a little bit deeper into the pool of offensive line. But I'd like to see them sign at least 3 offensive linemen during free agency.
I would love to know, how quickly is it going to happen with the quarterbacks? Like, how quickly this week is Sam Darnold going to find his next landing spot? And the Rodgers situation, who, apparently he's now in with the Giants, the Vikings, and the Steelers. So we'll see what happens on that front. And apparently the Seahawks too. Like, everybody wants a part of Aaron Rodgers now. So we'll see what that looks like, where he ends up. But when that starts to go, like, how quickly does the quarterback market kind of fall in line here? Like, is Is something gonna happen with Kirk Cousins? He's just remaining in Atlanta as the backup.
Well, there's something where we were wrong about. Charles was wrong about. I mean, he actually went to meet with the owner, like, please, I want to leave. And they're like, no, actually, you're a good backup. I mean, I guess that's what they're doing. They're paying a ton for him to be a backup, but it looks like, I guess, that's what they're doing.
I still find that hard to believe.
I do too. But, like, the fact that he, like, basically pleaded to, like, Arthur, please meet me for coffee. Please let me leave. I'm like, wow, they're actually going to keep him around at that rate to be their backup. I mean, look, if you think about it, you know, obviously Penix overtook him, but if Cousins was that banged up last year and they actually think he's a better player than that, now you do have two viable options. You have actual depth of the position.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what it's going to be.
Kirk, we need you to go get coffee for Michael Penix today.
Yeah. Kirk, you're a donut guy today.
615-737-1025, our phone number. A lot more of your thoughts to get to on the NFL free agency front. We'll have the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode at 7:45. Cory Curtis at 8 o'clock. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063 The Game. Taking your thoughts, our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jordan Raanan, who covers the Giants for ESPN NFL Nation, putting this out there a couple minutes ago. As of Sunday evening, the Giants waiting on Aaron Rodgers. He was assessing all of his options with the negotiating window opening today at noon. That's Eastern time. Rodgers expected to talk with the Seahawks and the Steelers also being an option. Apparently the Giants just waiting on Aaron Rodgers to make a decision.
Yeah, interesting. The Jets thing is interesting too. It's like the reporting is like the Jets are interested in Justin Fields, but like then he's talking with the Steelers. I guess I can see the Jets, trying to take a flyer there on him. The Steelers, I don't know. When you make these moves, you're gonna end up just putting it in his hands. Is the idea him and a rookie that you draft? To me, it's like when you get Metcalf, you have to give him a quarterback.
I think Rodgers makes a lot of sense for the Steelers.
Yeah,
I understand he's 41, but I think given where they're at right now in that division, you got those two guys at wide receiver. I think he makes a lot of sense for them. Now, if I'm him, if I'm Rodgers and Minnesota is truly a realistic option, which I don't know if it is or if it isn't, but if it's a realistic option, that would probably be my first choice, and then Pittsburgh would be in at number 2. Look, I get it's the Giants. They do have Malik Neighbors, so you feel good about that. But to me, the reason that he would want to go play for the Giants is because I guess he likes New York and he doesn't want to leave New York. Look, he was apparently, according to reports, pleading for the Jets to not release him. So that tells me he likes living in that area, I guess. I don't know what other reason there would be, because I would probably be like, please, for the love of God, cut me. I'll go anywhere else right now. But apparently that's not how he viewed it.
Yeah, he can still live there, You don't have to play football anymore. Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know what the appeal would be. It's just hard for me to see the Giants, the way the Commanders, obviously the Eagles, the way the Commanders have now come on, and the Cowboys are still really talented. You are clearly 4th of 4 in that division right now, and if you're realistic with yourself and you're Aaron Rodgers, you don't change the math on that.
I'm interested to see what it kind of feels like right now that the quarterback market's kind of waiting on him, right? And if the Giants are waiting on him, the Steelers are talking to him, the Seahawks are talking to him, it kind of feels like the Rodgers domino has to fall, and then everybody else is gonna, I guess, fill in after that.
Yeah,
speaks even to the level of this quarterback class and free agency.
I think Darnold too. Again, there's certainly the possibility that the team could be like, actually, we want to try to do a few years with Darnold, so he also could, I guess, be that same factor. What teams are still? Darnold, I think, is still, you would have to think, could be possible for the Steelers. There's definitely a lot of talk about the Seahawks.
Yeah.
Is there talk about Seahawks and Rodgers?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess if one of the two, make a move.
Yeah.
And at least now you can rule that team out. And, I'm obviously Rodgers wasn't that long ago. He was the absolute belle of the ball. And, again, we're sitting here. So again, I'm looking at Schefter here, Rodgers, QB option with the Steelers. Also, team continuing talks with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields.
Yeah. The Steelers are speaking with every quarterback.
Yeah. And I don't know, if I'm DK Metcalf, the Russ, that's the thing too, Fields, if you're going to keep one of those guys, don't you keep the guy who actually has a lot of chemistry built up over years with DK Metcalf?
You would think.
I don't know if you invited him to his birthday party, but he threw a lot of passes to him.
DK Metcalf may just be like, hey,
anyone
you guys
but Russ,
please not sign Russell Wilson. I have no idea.
It could be.
Buck Rising threw it out there earlier this morning. A couple names he's hearing that the Titans could be interested in on the quarterback front: Zach Wilson and Mac Jones. And a lot of reaction to that so far today on our text line. Joe, when you hear that, your thoughts on what that could mean, and if that's the way the Titans go with one of those two guys, how do you read into that in terms of what it means for them moving forward?
The Zach Mack attack. Get them both. Keep Levis, and just have, it would be they could be, those three guys could actually like the old SNL thing at the club, doing like, what is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Those three out on the town in Nashville. It could be pretty amazing.
He'd be heck of some preseason games coming up.
Yeah,
Go
dominant.
3 deep with those guys.
Right. Yeah, seriously. Like all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's the fourth quarter. It's guess what? Here comes Zach Wilson. Have some. Yeah, it's like, obviously, if in all seriousness, if you're a Titans fan that hears that and you're freaked out, I don't blame you. Mike Herndon is talking himself into Zach Wilson.
He is.
Meanwhile, you got people on Twitter telling us that we're dumb because it's obvious that they're just signing them as a backup, and that this would clearly signal that they're drafting, Cam Ward number 1. Maybe that's true.
Okay.
And that's the thing. Like if let's say that they sign one of those guys this week, then it really does become, so you are drafting a quarterback or what? And you know what? It's not is it the craziest thing in the world to think? I mean, I would take Mac Jones of those two based on what I know. Mac Jones, you talked about earlier in the show, he's had a good season in the NFL. He was promising as a rookie. It went downhill. It's not all his fault. It may not be primarily his fault, probably isn't. How much of it though is, I think at this point it's not super encouraging.
No,
but I would still take him over Zach Wilson. I don't see the Zach Wilson appeal from what I've seen. I maybe I'm missing something here. I don't see it.
No, I mean, like I said earlier, like I think you would have to. You'd have to really convince yourself that the Jets screwed him up, right? Like, isn't that what it would be? Like, you would convince yourself that, well, it was the Jets, and they're an absolute tire fire over there. And if you get him into our building, then you feel like you could coach him, and that maybe some of the stuff that's bad in his game and the decision making that you can work with that. I look at it like to me, and I know they're not exactly the same, but I kind of view Zach Wilson and Will Levis as like pretty similar guys in terms of there's a lot of arm talent there, but sometimes the decision making makes you wonder if like you're watching the same sport that those guys are watching. Like it's pretty similar from that regard.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's just and that's where it's like the idea. Obviously, they're just saying to be a backup. Yeah, I think the safe game again. Mason Rudolph to me, he wasn't very good, but like he's kind of the template for a backup.
Yeah.
Like Jacoby Brissett would be
great backup.
That'd be
option.
a backup right now, right? Safe. You can put him in pro, can run what you need. You might be able to cobble together a couple wins if your starter's hurt. Kyle from Clarksville asked about Tannehill. Has he retired? Is his name still out there floating around? Yeah, he hasn't retired. I mean, that may be coming.
He's done playing football.
Yeah, probably.
I'd be stunned if he's not done playing football.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that he hasn't retired, I guess, means that he's keeping it out there again another year where some contender loses their quarterback and last year I thought if there was a situation that was right, he'd get a call, but how many years can you keep doing that, So, and again, if you're asking Kyle in relation to the Titans, that one blows my mind that anybody thinks he would ever come back here and play for this organization. He would absolutely not.
Hayden on the YouTube chat says, I love how Robby is prepping me for when the Titans sign Mac Jones, giving me some stats and hoping that he won't drive my car off a cliff. Don't do that.
Yeah, we're trying to keep you all safe out there.
I'm just pointing out that his rookie year, when you look at the numbers, was pretty good. And then it quickly after that deteriorated on Mac Jones.
He does have, unlike Zach Wilson, an extended stretch of competence at quarterback in the NFL. Top tier says I'd take either one as long as they're drafting Ward. Yeah, again, then but so is it possible they've had these visits now? Is Shedeur in today?
I think it was originally supposed to be yesterday. I don't know what ended up happening.
But look, maybe the Titans in the building are like, Cam's the guy. That's it.
Maybe
drafting Cam. Love him. He is worth it. Taking him. No, if that's the case, then frankly, what you do at veteran quarterback doesn't mean that much.
Yes.
But the problem is we don't know that. So there will be a total meltdown if they sign one of those guys. And I can't tell you shouldn't melt down, but you, of course, you're going to need to hope that that's the answer.
Well, that's going to be the immediate pivot, right? It's like, well, don't worry, guys. They're drafting Cam Ward. So it doesn't matter that they've just signed Zach Wilson to come in and be the quarterback.
And I don't know if that'll be true or not.
I don't know.
I also don't know if it's going to happen. Andrew throws a couple names out there.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that
everybody's
first
melting
off,
down.
And here's the other thing: like, does somebody else out there view Mac Jones or Zach Wilson as somebody they want to target and bring in? And is that more appealing to a Zach Jones or a Zach Jones? Yeah, combine them both.
Yeah,
A Mac Jones or Zach Wilson? I don't know. We got to wait and see what happens on that front. But I just know that when those two names were thrown out there, my immediate reaction was, "Oh God,
yeah."
I don't know if I can do this for an entire season."
Oh, sounds really exciting. Texter says, just started listening. Have we just accepted the Titans aren't signing Darnold? Yeah, I mean, I think the ship is.
Yeah.
But again, Karski reported last week on this show and on his website, and I understand that Stille had the fantasy fever dream that they were lying to him, and they're actually really going to do it. And no, PK's reporting was solid. Yeah, you can probably just wait and see which other team Sam Darnold signs with pretty soon here.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. We'll have the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode coming up next. Cory Curtis from News 2 will be with us at 8 o'clock. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment. Let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
Two names I've heard about Titans' interest: Zach Wilson and
Boom.
Mac Jones.
Boom. A mighty team that will not yield. That's going to become the Titans' new fight song. You must take it from the Lion. I try not to watch Zach Wilson. You know, I try not to.
We may have to.
It may be unavoidable very soon here in Nashville, Tennessee. Oh, see, there's me just yelling for no reason. Now I get it.
Uber guys.
Uber guy, don't leave us, Uber guy. Uber guy, stay with us.
It is that time of the day. Time for the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode. Check it out every morning here on the program. Joseph, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I think that the rants this week will be my little carve out my little moment for college basketball. So I got to talk about, first of all, shout out to Lipscomb. The Bisons are in the NCAA tournament. Congratulations to Lipscomb. Lipscomb. Boy, yeah, sometimes you miss an S, and that's not a good thing. Meanwhile, Belmont, unfortunately, Belmont gave Drake a real. You got to stop over there. God, these rants just. We need to get rid of the rant. Belmont gave Drake.
No, we don't. We need more.
No, really. Belmont gave Drake a great run in the semis. Did not get it done. Drake gets in. So I think is that it on the. No, and Middle Tennessee's got a chance too in CUSA. But I want to talk real quickly about in-state rivalries and about pettiness, because a couple great things happened this weekend in this regard, which is why I think that college basketball or college sports, is unrivaled, but especially the in-state rivalry. First of all, I figured you saved Izzo for this, because I thought you might intro. Give me a little Tom Izzo from yesterday, just with no context. Tom Izzo.
They shouldn't get mad if we're kissing our own ass if we're doing something down there. I don't get mad when they call me an angry midget. That don't bother me.
That was Tom Izzo yesterday after his Spartans beat the hated Michigan Wolverines. Unfortunately for the Big Ten, it wasn't for the championship. Michigan had already blown that. But Michigan State blew out Michigan. And they have this, this tradition, which goes back 30 years of Sean Respert, like 30 freaking years ago. Good Lord. Where they kiss like center court, and it used to be a block S. Now it's a Spartan head. That's what they do all senior day. They kiss, they like do a push-up basically on the floor, kiss the floor. That started with Sean Respert, great college basketball player 30 years ago. So yesterday, Michigan, a couple of their players, and again, I don't think this was from like the coach, but a couple of their players decided to stand right on the logo. And so Trey Holloman of Michigan State finally goes in and starts shoving them out of the way, and they go back and forth. And then they have the ceremony, and after Izzo's like, Trey, he was a junior, get out here and kiss the floor. No one messes with our tradition. So now we have all this crap. So these fan bases are now going, like Michigan State fans have gone through, and they've like found all of the other like free throws of the whole year and show that Michigan players never stand that far back. Like, look, it's like, so this reminds me of Alabama-Auburn. Alabama-Auburn, incredible win for Alabama. And at Auburn on Janai Broom's senior day, ruining 34 points for him. But Chad Baker-Mazara, who is a great player, who is also a powder keg, elbow to the head of an Alabama player and gets ejected, and he should have been ejected. So now Alabama fans, it's all over Alabama Twitter. Or I'm sorry, Auburn fans, all over Auburn Twitter, finding every little moment of like someone throwing a little elbow, little step. I mean, it's amazing. They're just going back and forth. Pure hatred, pure pettiness. It's hard to beat. So I want to say that, and by the way, on the Michigan State one, again, the coach then, Michigan coach Dusty May actually, he's like, well, are we not allowed to stand at half court? Is this not tradition? Again, I don't think he knew what his players were doing, but they were definitely doing it on purpose. And so now we have this beautiful just back and forth between these fan bases. It's hard to beat. And so it's a great way to launch us into this week.
Yeah. It's first off, I'm a big fan of the in-state rivalry. All of them. Like, I think it's awesome. Tennessee Vanderbilt's awesome. Alabama Auburn, great stuff. Michigan State. I actually saw a lot of that game yesterday, and just the intensity level of those games is hard to recreate. Like when you've got the in-state rivalry there. The I will say, like Bruce Pearl trying to go over and like police the crowd from throwing popcorn and whatever else they were throwing on the gym floor after that was pretty awesome.
Well, also, did you
Stop it, guys?
Yeah. Well, did you also see, Nate Oates?
Yeah.
Nate Oates goes over there. The people are throwing stuff. The Alabama players are, showing the jerseys, all that stuff, and he's over there.
Come on.
Yeah, just
Throw more.
talking so much trash. That's great. So I hope. Let's see. I don't even know. I assume Alabama Auburn probably couldn't. I assume could they meet before the final, or I forget. I'm going to look at the bracket right now. I mean, Alabama Auburn, which of course split this year, both of them winning on each other's home courts would be absolutely amazing.
It'd be the final.
It would be the final.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a dream, and I understand Tennessee fans. You want, we might see Auburn, Tennessee Saturday. Yeah. That'd be fun. Tennessee would love another shot at Auburn, but just from these games, the Sunday championship games, if you have it on Sunday, it hardly ever affects the bracket. Auburn's already the outright champs, but if Auburn and Alabama played, the problem is they would beat the crap out of each other so much. Like I would bet up for both of them for early round exits if it gets to that. Like Auburn should seriously not show up this week. They should just they lost 2 games last week. They're the number 1 overall seed still. They have the best resume, period, by far in the nation. Duke will be ranked number 1. Doesn't mean anything. Auburn is the number 1 overall seed. But if we could get Auburn, Alabama on Sunday, it actually would, that would make it worthwhile, whereas normally I hate these Sunday championship games.
How many SEC teams are in at this exact moment, do you think, in the tournament?
So, I have a bracket today,
Ooh.
and Texas is out, but I've got 13. I mean, Arkansas had a huge week. Oklahoma had a huge week. Georgia had a huge week. Vanderbilt lost both games, but they're fine. They're still safe. So I've got 13. Now, Oklahoma and Georgia play. I would not lose that game if I was one of those teams, especially if I'm Oklahoma. I would not lose that game to Georgia, the last game of the day, Wednesday. But right now, and then Texas, which plays Vanderbilt, of course has to win that, and then has to beat Texas A&M, and then might have to beat Tennessee to get in the tournament. That would be the path. Sounds fun. It's a ridiculous league. And I mean, it's gonna be an awesome tournament, and there will be surprises.
We'll be joined by Cory Curtis from News 2 coming up next. We'll get his thoughts on the Titans and NFL free agency this week. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Monday morning. We head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in our friend Cory Curtis from News 2, brought to you by Tennessee Men's Clinic. Cory, good morning. How are you?
I am delightful today. How are you? It's one of my favorite weeks of the year.
Yeah, it's awesome. NFL free agency, a big week. What's not awesome? Well, I'll save that. I'll get. Let's just get your reaction to it before I tell you mine. Buck Rising, our good friend, threw this out there this morning. Said two names that he's heard around the Titans' interest: Zach Wilson and Mac Jones. Your reaction to that?
What's the point?
Well, are those viable options for you to play quarterback for the Tennessee Titans?
That's my answer. What's the point? I mean, just play Will Levis.
I agree.
I mean, those guys they're terrible. They've proven they're terrible. I mean, I don't get it. I don't get it. I mean, look, they know more football than I do. I know that. I'm not naive. I'm not egotistical. But I mean, we've all seen what we've seen. You know, regardless of metrics and talent, and we've seen what they've done on the field. And not only that, there have been questions about them, the way they fit in with teammates at times, or at least with Mac Jones. Because look, you can't be bringing one of those guys in to be your starter, right?
I wouldn't think so. But
So
do either one of those guys fit like back up to Cam Ward to you?
Well, I mean, if I'm going to have, I just keep Will Levis as my backup to Cam Ward then.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't.
Would you accept them as a number 3 quarterback? Would you be okay with that?
Who is the number 3?
If one of those guys, I'm just trying to find a role that you would be okay with those guys having. Number 3 quarterback, holder on field goals.
Sure, but you know what? For your number 3 quarterback, you can sign that guy during the season, which is what most people do.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's I will say, and because I've had to sit here for a couple hours and like try to talk myself into things. I mean, Mac Jones, this is gonna be a problem, isn't it?
It is.
Mac Jones at least has a good season, like a promising season. Whereas, I mean, I'm with you on Zach Wilson. I don't think we've seen anything other than the occasional wow play from him. But I guess with Mac Jones, you could talk yourself into, he got the whole Matt Patricia garbage was just a terrible move. And he's like that classic reclamation guy who now he has to go through a backup thing, and maybe he's a little bit better than we think. Maybe. I mean, from your standpoint, I agree he's a little more accomplished because, Zach Wilson's far more athletic. I mean, we can say that. And, we've seen some wow athleticism, but, I think, Will Levis has done similar stuff with Zach Wilson. I think they're kind of similar, don't you?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
where Mac Jones may be a little bit more of a game operator, and maybe that's what you're more comfortable with as a backup.
Yeah, like it's interesting, like the veteran market right now. So you've got, Rodgers apparently talking with all these teams of like Giants, the Steelers. There's like some reporting out there that he could be a dark horse candidate for the Vikings. You got Darnold that I think feels like he's going to end up in Seattle, but we'll see.
Yeah.
And then it's just a bunch of guys. Like the Jets are acting like they're interested in Justin Fields. And there was some reporting yesterday that if they don't get Fields, they could pivot to Mariota or Wentz. Like it's just it's a really weird veteran market right now.
Yeah, there's not a ton out there. And, Mariota and Wentz have both had moments, but they've also been two guys who've just never been able to stay healthy. And by the way, if they were really starting quarterbacks, they'd still be starting quarterbacks. And I think that's kind of the point with all of these guys, is if they were really starting quarterbacks, they'd still be starting quarterbacks. And we can point to Darnold and we can point to Baker Mayfield. Mayfield lost his spot in Cleveland because Cleveland's a disaster, and he played injured that last year. He was hurt the entire season and didn't play great. But a lot of quarterbacks don't play great, when they have a torn labrum in their shoulder. And so he's always been a pretty good player. And Darnold, just kept getting opportunities and got better. And that's kind of an anomaly. All right. I mean, the Darnolds and the Geno Smiths are the anomalies, because there are a million quarterbacks who weren't good and never got good. And so, to hope that your washed out quarterback choice is going to be the next one is just that. It's hope. And so, you're rolling the dice on the season in a huge way with one of those guys, that your odds, so if you're rolling 2 dice and there's 9 trillion you pretty much got to come up with a 3 on your throw for it to work.
Beyond quarterback, Corey, anyone out there, the edge class, the offensive line class, that you're like this? I mean, some of the people we've talked about, of course, never actually made it. Ronnie Stanley, Trey Smith, for example. But anybody who really stands out to you, like the Titans have to go get this guy?
Well, I mean, look, I don't know who they have to go get. They need a right tackle. And, I guess, is Morgan Moses going to the Patriots now?
We'll see. I don't think anything's been finalized on that.
There's a tackle from the Steelers who's available as well. And his name escapes me at this moment, but I think they are set on solidifying that position with a proven player, because they've just been through too much with that spot right now. So I think, one of those guys who's a proven player at right tackle is something that they have to go get. I mean, look, they clearly need edge players. Yes. There are several out there, but they're going to have to pay for them. They're not free. I mean, whether it be Kuntz or Odabingo, or I can't get any of their names right. And who's the guy in the Giants? Ojulari or something.
Azeez Ojulari.
Yeah. Those guys are all available. And you're probably going to have to overpay for them. I mean, those guys, I think of those guys as like $8 million guys. Now they're probably like $15 million guys. And so, they need help there. And the cap is up and you have space. And if you draft a rookie quarterback, obviously there's no big veterans to pay. You're still not spending a lot of money at the quarterback position. So you've got money. You've got that luxury to spend on some of those spots, but they need multiple players, not just one players. I've seen some stuff this morning about Micah Parsons, and that's kind of intriguing because he's a dominant player, and you could get him while you're on a rookie quarterback contract. But those are the 2 spots that they clearly need to get. I like Trey Smith, but I don't like the idea of spending $20 million for a guard. I think you can get a very functional guard at a lower price than that. And I think that's what they should do, but they've really got to get right tackle. And I know this is a good edge class in the draft, but they've got to get at least one bona fide edge player in free agency.
By the way, the Steeler you're referencing is Dan Moore Jr., left tackle 26, who has allowed the most sacks, 34, pressures, 181 in the NFL since he came in as a 4th-round pick in 2021. His pressure rate allowed is 7.6%. That ranks 242nd out of 275 players with at least 500 snaps. So
fit in nicely.
So Steelers fans, I know, are like, get him out of there. But he did improve last year, and he is probably the belle of the ball when it comes to tackles at this point.
What about I brought this name up to Jared, and then he had a perfectly good response to it, and that was Jedrick Wills with Cleveland. A guy who
Callahan
was a right tackle.
He's a Callahan guy.
Yeah, and was a right tackle playing left tackle. You can argue he quit on his team, which is a huge red flag.
Yeah,
huge red flag. And so I would need to know a lot more about it. But another high-end draft pick that you could look into. And a receiver that I like at the price you'll get him is Elijah Moore. I think you can get him at a very comfortable pay rate, and he's got 120 receptions over the last 2 years playing out of the slot. So he's a guy that, I don't know if they'll look at him or not, but when I look at his market value and his production, I'd be interested.
What'd you make of the DK Metcalf trade to Pittsburgh? What do you think that does for the Steelers? Assuming they land a quarterback here at some point.
I think he gives them a terrible contract. I mean, do you guys think DK Metcalf's worth $30 million?
In today's NFL, yeah, probably. I mean, it's when
Okay.
I like him.
Jamar Chase getting ready to get paid 42 or whatever it is, so we'll see what that looks like.
Jamar Chase is Jamar Chase. DK Metcalf is not Jamar Chase.
He's also not making $42 million. 30.
Yeah,
I mean, 30 is the market now for a guy like that.
Yeah. You know what? It's like the Christian Kirk contract when that happened. We all thought it was crazy.
Yeah, it ended up being not that bad, right?
Yeah, and I remember when Corey Davis was up for the tag, and I was like, give him 4 years and $40 million. People thought that was crazy. I mean, that would have been a bargain contract to keep that guy on the team. And and maybe he'd still be with them today, as a 2 or a 3 or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think when we get old, we get sticker shock, and so. Sometimes the number is the number, but we also have to understand the number is relative to where the market is now. It's like Micah Parsons, $40 million, Myles Garrett, $40 million. It sounds insane, but I guess that's where the market is now, and you just have to find a way to make it work. But DK Metcalf has been a guy who's had very big games and has been a very good player, but I've also viewed him as a little inconsistent at times.
That's fair.
And he's had games where, he has 2 catches for 11 yards. And I'm not saying he's got a lot of those games, but they're out there. And he's also been a guy who's been a little emotionally volatile at times. And I guess beggars can't be choosers either. When you want to get a talented player, and he's a talented player clearly, and they become available, you have to take a chance sometimes. And Pittsburgh clearly thinks he is. And look, he fit that team. I mean, he's a big, huge, hulking beast, physical player. I mean, yeah, I would think he fits it with Mike Tomlin fine.
I think my favorite part of that entire thing, Corey, yesterday was the reporting that came out that he wanted to go play in a warm weather city, and then like an hour and a half later, he got traded to Pittsburgh.
Look,
that was awesome.
Guys,
it's warm sometimes there.
No matter what guys say, that they want, this system, this quarterback, that, to play for a contender, the best fit. They want the most money. That they're 99.999% of the time, they're going to go to the one that offered them the most money. That's the one that made them feel at home, is always the one who gives the most money. And I don't blame them. This is what they do. They have a very short career span, make the most money, but don't ever make more of it than that. If you want a guy, you're going to pay for him. Deshaun Watson didn't want to go to Cleveland, but guess what? They gave him like $250 million guaranteed, and he's been there to burn the Browns franchise to the ground.
Tropical paradise in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Hope he enjoys it.
Yes. Oh, and by the way, they don't have a quarterback either.
There's also that.
So wide receiver goes to city with the weather he doesn't want and no quarterback. So have at it.
Maybe they'll get Zach Wilson.
Maybe so. Corey, going to be a fun week. Looking forward to it. I appreciate you taking time to be with us this morning, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, also the SEC tournament in town. And by the way, I know not everybody's a soccer fan, but if you haven't seen Ahmed Kassim, he's the stuff. And I think Nashville SC is going to be a lot more fun to watch this year. They got more players.
Pumping his fist in there. He's fired up about it.
He's talented. He's really talented, and he's going to add something to that attack.
Corey, have a great week.
All right, later.
Corey Curtis from News 2, our guest. We'll react to what Corey had to say, get you caught up on the latest on NFL free agency coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Appreciate Cory Curtis from News 2 for being with us in the last segment. Cory Curtis brought to you by Tennessee Men's Clinic. NFL free agency underway unofficially today. The legal tampering period beginning today, I believe at 11 a.m. Central Time is when things kick off there. We've seen some action already throughout the NFL with guys who had previously been released. Devontae Adams signing with the Rams yesterday. Harold Landry making his way back up to old Mike Vrabel, signing with the New England Patriots. So it is officially go time in the NFL offseason. What are the Titans going to do? What activity will they take in free agency, whether that's at quarterback, at wide receiver, edge rusher, which I agree with Cory. You know, we talked about Josh Sweat a little bit earlier in the show. I think edge rusher is a spot where knowing that you're going to address it in the draft, whether that's with Abdul Carter or somewhere else, I still think that's a spot in free agency that you really got to hone in on here. And yeah, are you probably going to overpay for somebody? Probably. But you need some serious help at that position. And that would be probably that and the offensive line, which, as you've pointed out throughout the show, not a ton of great options on the offensive line. Those two spots are where my free agency eyes would be if I'm the Titans, primarily.
Yeah, and there are a lot of options. You know, Josh Sweat is the high ticket item, but there are a lot of other options. Still, he texted me and said Dan Moore, who we just talked about, the Steelers is going to get $20 million a year. I said I don't doubt it. Dan Moore, again, he did get better this year. You know, that pressure rate I mentioned, it was 7.1 this year.
Yep.
So that means going into this year. So if it's 7.6 as a career, that tells you it was probably over 8 going into the year. So
It's getting better.
there is improvement. Helped himself getting into, you know, the situation. And I don't know if it's are the Steelers we're gonna find out he's going back there to, I don't know. But he's out there now. So
What's Rodgers think?
That's a good
Is
question.
he doing recruiting?
I don't know. DK, and again, like Steelers fans, this is a guy who's been, very much, lamented by Steelers fans. But basically he's the top tackle who's out there. And again, he's a left tackle. So you keep that in mind too. But of course, the guy that we've also talked about a lot at tackle is Morgan Moses.
Yep.
34 years old. So he's up there.
He is up there. There's a thought that maybe he ends up with the Patriots. We'll see if that ends up happening or not there. But, I think regardless the way you look at like if I'm a Titans fan looking at this, can you get me a right side of the offensive line? I'm not asking for anything special. Can you get me a right side of the offensive line with a combo of the draft and free agency that you're not scared to death on every snap that your quarterback is going to get his arm ripped off back there? That would be, I think, where you're trying to get to right now. You can worry about finding like an elite right tackle at some point. I don't know if this offseason that's going to be available to you, but in the meantime, you get to a point where it's not a huge glaring turnstile problem every time you drop back to pass. And again, like we talked about this heading into the offseason, and I stand by it now. This is a big moment for Bill Callahan too, right? Like we talk a lot about Brian Callahan. Like they need the Bill Callahan factor to come through this offseason. And it didn't really do that last year. Not to say that, he's totally to blame for it. I mean, their roster was what their roster was. But I think whether it's him helping in the draft process, identifying prospects, free agency, I would assume and I would hope that they have consulted him pretty heavily just in terms of the offensive lineman available to get his thoughts. Like you need that to come through for you this year and to see that tangibly on the field.
No question about it. Whatever they end up doing, it has to be better, and it should be better. He should make it better.
Yes.
Now, speaking of Morgan Moses, by the way, now of course this would be a right tackle. We just mentioned Dan Moore and 7.1, his best pressure rate of his career, and he's the worst pressure rate in his time in the NFL. Morgan Moses allowed 24 pressures, 2022 and 23, and 16 last year. He has the best pressure rate allowed of any tackle in this class, 3.7%. So you're talking about cut in half what Dan, again, we're talking right tackle versus left tackle. We're talking 34 years old versus 26 years old. But Moses just wrapped up a 3-year, $15 million deal, and he's been really good.
Yep.
So there's Patriots, Todd, of Vrabel would love, I'm sure, to beat out the Titans for someone like that. But that could be a good answer if you can get in on it.
Well, and beyond that, like looking at the guards here, I read off a tweet from Pete Prisco of CBS Sports earlier talking about how the feeling around the league is the guards are about to just get massively overpaid, and that there's going to be a lot of money thrown out there for guards who are good players that are getting paid like great players. I think in free agency, sometimes that's the name of the game anyway, but with the Titans specifically, that may be what you have to do. Like, I'm interested to see what happens with Dylan Radins. Like, is somebody going to pay Dylan Radins more money than we think to go be a starting guard somewhere? Is it going to be the Titans? Probably not. Like, I'd rather see the Titans move on and try to upgrade from Dylan Radins at the right guard spot. But, Prisco thinks that the market's just going to be off the wall for these guards out there this offseason.
Yeah. Well, Trey Smith got a lot of money to stay in Kansas City. So I know people were down on that. I think if the Titans could have gone after him, I disagree with Corey. I think if you have a good offensive lineman, 5 positions, if you have someone who is really solid and sound, they all matter, man. They all matter. Tackle gets a little bit more money than guard. You're dealing with edge players, but interior pass rush is still the most effective way to really mess up a quarterback. It's the one way people were able to mess up Tom Brady.
I mean, isn't it kind of funny that Harold Landry and Austin Hooper have ended up in New England? Or I guess in Hooper's case, back in New England with Vrabel in charge here. He's going to stockpile some old Titans stalwarts out there.
I mean, look, man, I'm sitting here. I really hope before the show ends we get the humongous Nick Westbrook-Akine deal. Huge.
Like, wow, NWI just signed a 6-year deal in New England. What happened? 615-737-1025. Our phone number. More thoughts on NFL free agency. What should the Titans do as free agency opens up basically today, unofficially today? But I mean, isn't today really NFL free agency? Like the tampering period opens up, but like we're going to see a lot of deals.
Oh, yeah.
Get done
Already
today.
seen them.
Yeah. A lot of deals. 615-737-1025, our phone number. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, the game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/getitall. Tune in to 102.5, 106.3 The Game for updates from the SEC men's basketball tournament, Wednesday through Friday, presented by Toyota, Guinness, thenewcumberland.com, Volunteer Hose and Gasket, and Sloan's Motorcycle and ATV. Taking your thoughts on NFL free agency. What should the Titans do as free agency opens up today? And how active will the Titans be? Now, one thing, and we talked about this with Kuharski last week when he was with us on Wednesday. It feels like the Titans could be maybe a little bit more active in free agency than we originally thought heading into it. And it makes sense. Like, they've got a lot of holes to fill. You're not going to fill all the holes in the draft. It doesn't mean that you have to spend a ton of money at every position. But, I mean, he brought up the Washington example from last year. Like, Washington signed an absolute ton of guys last year to one-year deals. And a lot of those guys worked out and played pretty meaningful football for them. And it wasn't the only reason. It wasn't even the main reason why they turned things around. That was Jaden Daniels and the quarterback play. I understand that. But it did help with some of the contributions that they got from their free agency period here. So, like, there's been the thought out there from some of, well, the Titans are so far away. Why would you spend a lot of money in free agency? And I think with the holes that they have, I think it makes a lot of sense to be pretty active in free agency. And are you going to flame out on some? Yeah. But some, if you scout right and if you get some injury luck along the way, can work out for you pretty nicely. And if I'm the Titans, I'm probably specifically at edge rusher looking to spend some pretty significant money there. And beyond that, I think you're kind of going bargain bin shopping and hoping that you can identify a few of those guys, Joe, that work out for you pretty well on 1 to 2 year deals.
Yeah, I think there's going to have to be a fair amount of that, and you got to make some good choices. I think you're going to see some of that on the offensive line, maybe some of that at edge, like Zadarius Smith. We talked about him earlier. Lions let him go. I was a little surprised by that, just because the Lions are kind of they're kind of barren at edge, even with Aiden Hutchinson coming back. But there's a guy who, on a 1 year deal could be, give you some little bit of an upgrade and something. He's not a bad player. I mean, he had pretty good numbers last year. Stuff like that. You have to do some of that. And then, of course, you're going to do some, multi-year, maybe bigger ticket. Yeah, I know Titans fans don't want to sit here all week and wait for them to just do all plan B stuff. You'd love to see the Titans, sign someone significant near the top of the pool of free agency and something to get excited about. But remember, a year ago, the Titans did some pretty high ticket maneuvering, both in free agency and in trades. And there was a ton of excitement, ton of talking about this person and that person cooking. And then you end up having a really bad football team on the field in the fall.
Any of these guys excite you at all if you're the Titans right now? Chris Godwin, Amari Cooper, Stephon Diggs going off an injury. You get yourself involved in any of that if you're the Titans?
I mean, I think Chris Godwin is still really good. But to me, like where you are with Ridley, I think you have to, and again, it's like you can't do everything, because I think they really, really need a young edge that they draft. They really, really need a young offensive tackle that they draft, and they really, really need a young receiver that they draft.
Yep.
Are you going to get all that done in this draft? You don't have a third-round pick.
But at the moment, it's hard to imagine.
So, but also, I like a Godwin. I mean, he's like 29. Ankle dislocation, it was nasty. Does that affect him moving forward?
He's had a few injuries that are
a
little rough.
But I mean, my goodness, he's a heck of a football player. And then the other guys you mentioned, no, not really. I mean, look, I think I understand, like, we're talking about 3-4 guy here, okay? But I think it is important for the Titans to keep Nick Westbrook-Akine. All jokes aside, just to have some depth in that room. But I feel like I've seen some things, like if they move down, maybe somebody more in the middle of the draft wants to move up to get a quarterback or whatever, like would like a Luther Burden be, a pick that lines up with where they are or something like that. I mean, I I think that would be more exciting than what's out there in the free agency. I mean, I don't hate what Cory mentioned.
Elijah Moore?
Yeah, Elijah Moore. I almost called him Elijah Molden.
You do not want him playing receiver.
No. By the way, pretty good year for the Titans or for the Chargers.
He did. He got a new contract.
He did. But yeah, the receiver, it's just not. There's not a lot out, and then you got guys, like Keenan Allen, and I mean, you got Hopkins out there. I think Cooper is. I think we saw it. I think he's close to. He's just really fading. I think at this point, wouldn't trust that. Wouldn't trust Tyler Lockett. Tough scene at receiver.
What about Cooper Kupp?
I mean, someone texted earlier in the show. It's like, that's a perfect example of a guy the Titans would sign
It
because
really
he's now looks like he might be toast. Is he though? Like, can he get past this stuff and still be an effective guy? I mean, what's the price tag on Cooper Kupp right now?
And he can't be that much. I mean, you got to have faith that he can stay healthy.
Right.
I mean, what's he getting? A 1-year deal? Maybe a 2-year deal?
I think so. I think to me, like if you're him, it's like basically you got to have a prove it 1-year deal.
Yeah.
And then if you play well, stay healthy, then you could actually go out there next year and get paid. Get a good deal again, like Landry just did from his buddy Vrapes.
But it's also like this is what you come back to. Like if it gets down that cheap with Kupp, let's say it's a 1-year deal and he's making I don't know, $13 million or whatever it is for 1 year. Why would you come to the Titans at that point, right? Like, sure, is somebody out there that's more of a contender, if it gets down cheap enough, is going to be willing to throw something out his way.
Right. Like Cory made the point, and it comes down to it. I mean, money talks more loudly than anything. But that when you're a bad team, then you don't have anything else to sell.
Right.
You don't have a quarterback to sell. You don't have we're close to winning something here to sell. So then you need to be absolutely top of market, and you have to outpay everybody else to get a lot of these players when you're bad, because there are other things that they care about. Money is most important, but again, you have to make it the thing that they can't refuse.
Well, then, a position that we don't talk about a lot, but what do they do at safety? Like safety is another spot where they need help. We brought up Javon Holland last week, who has been in Miami. It still seems like Miami's trying to get him back there, but he could end up somewhere else. Cameron Wolfe said that the Panthers would be interested in Holland. Also said the Titans would be interested in Holland. So what sort of money are you willing to allocate at that position? You've got Amani Hooker back there, but I mean, let's be clear. Like, since Kevin Byard has left, and I'm not saying it was a totally bad decision to allow Kevin Byard to be traded here, but like since he's left, they've been searching for that next guy at safety, and they've not found it yet. So how much money are you willing to allocate at that position if you're Mike Borgonzi?
You got to do serious work there. You got to do serious work at inside linebacker. You feel good about where you are up the middle, with Simmons and Sweat. I don't know if you feel great, but you feel pretty good, right? I mean, you could be – I mean, there's potential there, and you could be a lot worse off there. But, I mean, the Titans – yeah, we can talk about premium positions all you want. Again, look at some of these teams in the NFL and how important a great inside linebacker is to these teams. And look at, like, when the Titans had it rolling with David Long Jr., or there are different people who have played the position well for them. And when they do or don't have that, they have got to address that position. They've got to address safety. So, I mean, they have to address about everything. But I do think that that's maybe a little bit underrated in terms of what they need to do with the defense. We're going to talk about edge. We know that they're pretty set at, corner and, again, D tackle. But I do think linebacker and safety very, very important.
615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. Final thoughts of the day on NFL free agency. What would you like to see the Titans do? And how is the quarterback carousel going to come into focus in the NFL? We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. I got some tickets to give away to see Aziz Ansari at the Ryman Auditorium on Thursday, March 20th. Be caller 3, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Taking your thoughts on NFL free agency. What will the Titans do? It's going to be interesting to see when things get rolling today, how active the Titans are, who they target in their free agent conversations. A lot of people wait on the quarterback carousel to take shape as well. Aaron Rodgers, apparently, Jordan Raanan, who covers the Giants, put this out there earlier this morning, that the Giants are essentially waiting on Aaron Rodgers to make a decision. He's speaking with them. Apparently, Rodgers is also in conversations with the Steelers, with the Seahawks, and he, over the weekend, was reported to be a dark horse candidate for the Vikings. So it feels like kind of waiting for the Aaron Rodgers shoe to drop. What does that do for Sam Darnold? Does Darnold end up in Seattle after they move Geno Smith? And then could Darnold be their target there? Kind of feels like that's where most people expect his next landing spot to be. So on that front, Joe, it kind of feels like the next steps on the quarterback front will be Rodgers and Darnold. And then what happens in the aftermath of that? Like if Rodgers goes to Pittsburgh, well, obviously that means that Justin Fields and Russell Wilson will be out there. So does Fields end up with the Jets? Apparently there's interest from the Jets and Justin Fields. Is there a landing spot that makes sense for Russell Wilson to be the starting quarterback at that point? Going to be interesting to see how the quarterback part of this shakes out.
Yeah. And meanwhile, we are left here to talk about the Zach Mack attack.
Yeah.
Zach Mack attack, which I know is exciting to people. But, yeah, it seems like one of those two guys probably goes first, Rodgers or Darnold, maybe at the same time. And then you kind of fill in from there. Kaharski reported last week Titans weren't interested in Darnold. There's no discussion. There's discussion of a whole bunch of these guys with a whole bunch of teams, not a peep about the Titans and Darnold. So I think you can, again, trust PK's reporting as you should have a week ago. And, if they end up actually going after one of those two guys, Titans fans are going to be upset. But a lot of Titans fans are also going to probably talk themselves into, okay, well, then this ensures that they're going to take a quarterback at number one.
Which maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know.
Yep.
I could speak from personally, like we've talked about it. I'm not a huge fan of Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. I don't know that either one of them are worth the number one overall pick. But my God, I'd rather watch Cam Ward play quarterback than Zach Wilson or Mac Jones next year. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, I would rather watch either of them play. So, but again, it comes down to, and I know someone's asking like, why is there no news right now about the visit? Did they love him? Did they hate him? Feels like a lot of times there really isn't much that comes out of those. And also, like, this is the time of year when just about anything you hear, you just assume the opposite's true anyway.
Well, and also like if they didn't love him. Like, let's say they got out of there and was like, man, Cam Ward, kind of a jerk.
They want no one to know
not
that.
say that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They want no one to know that. Right. Like, if they genuinely liked him or if they didn't, what you're probably going to hear is that they liked him.
Yes.
So it's going to be interesting, man. There's been plenty of meltdowns about the Tennessee Titans over the recent years.
We may not be done.
And Mike Borgonzi, Berserker, may be engineering another meltdown here real soon.
I mean, I said it. I was joking about it about a month and a half ago, like the Zach Wilson, Will Levis quarterback room. It was a joke, and now it may not be.
It may be reality.
We'll see. I don't know.
What were the names? So PK last week said, Darnold, they're not going to do it.
Yeah,
and he said a Mac, maybe he said like Mac Jones Jameis Winston. He said something like a Mac Jones, Jameis. I think that's what he said. If he said Mac Jones and Zach Wilson, he did not make a big enough deal because, again, Andrew drops the names this morning and causes a complete meltdown. I should go buy Andrew.
Here was the line from
lunch
PK's
today.
report last week. I believe the Titans, if they pass on Ward or Sanders, who seems less attractive to them, are prepared for a worst-case scenario where they sign a stopgap player like Mac Jones or Jameis Winston, their quarterback.
So he didn't even tread on the Zach Wilson ground.
He did not.
Where Andrew has gone boldly today to help Titans Twitter just have a super Monday morning.
Yeah. So
It's very.
I mean, honestly, of
exciting
those
stuff.
three, just because, I guess I just have a soft spot for Winston and his entertainment value, but I think I legitimately would rather watch him play quarterback as well rather than Jones and Wilson. That's just me.
Yeah. Well, look, and
I mean, you know what it's going to be with Jameis. You're probably not winning a whole lot, and he'll have games where he throws for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns, and he'll have games where he throws for 6 picks.
I mean, his best is way better than anything we've seen from those guys.
I agree.
His worst is also just tremendous.
Equally as bad.
Yeah, but I mean, his best, and then and with Jameis, I mean, look, I mean, as far as like having him on your team, it seems to me like it's pretty good, right? Like beyond the fact that like we think he's funny and everything, like I feel like he's a good guy to have. On your team,
he seems to be a popular teammate. Beyond the eating W's, he seems to be a pretty popular teammate out there. So
yeah. So all right. So I'm now pushing hard for Jameis Winston over Zach Wilson. That's the discussion we're in.
Yeah.
Don't sign Zach, sign Jameis. My goodness.
By the way, as Stilly has pointed out to me, and I've just looked this up and got the quote too. Jeremy Fowler did talk about Zach Wilson to the Titans. Said, quote, "I do expect Tennessee Titans to snag a veteran quarterback in the market. I don't sense it'll be a top of market Sam Darnold type player. Could be a mid-tier type option, maybe even like Zach Wilson type player who's been a backup, who's still got some upside they could bring in."
That was
Fowler? That was Jeremy Fowler on Friday.
So we throw a little Zach Wilson out here. We throw a little we throw a little Mac Jones out there.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Prepare the runway for the landing of the next star quarterback for the Tennessee Titans.
Joe, I do quickly want to get your thoughts on this because as this week goes on, depending on what the Titans do, I don't know how much time we're going to have to really get into this, but your quick thoughts on Eddie George becoming the next head coach at Bowling Green.
Yeah, remember that there was another MAC, I think maybe Akron job.
Yes, it was Akron.
Yeah, he was in there, and some people were like, no, he's just doing this to be at TSU, and he's in Nashville. No, I mean he's trying to move up the ladder of college coaching. So it's tough for TSU. He's done some good things and made some progress there, but hopefully there's some lasting impact that he had, and just in terms of bringing the attention to the program. But Eddie George is looking to keep moving up. So that's a tough loss for Tennessee State, and it'll be really interesting to see what he does in the MAC.
Yep, got a 5-year deal with Bowling Green. And by the way, Bowling Green, not in Kentucky.
Right.
This
Bowling Green, Ohio. My brother-in-law's alma mater. He's a proud Falcon. And now so is Eddie George.
So is Eddie George. So we'll see what that looks like. I remember when he took the TSU job, I was like, does he really want to, like, at this stage of his life, sign up for like the grind of coaching? Apparently the answer is yes. I guess he really likes it. So it looks like he's in it for the long haul here.
Yeah. And look, when it comes down to it, I mean, you're in that world, and it's like, resources matter, and so he's moving to obviously a higher level and more resources and things like that. Does he, I don't know, maybe someday it'll be Eddie George against Mike Vrabel for the Ohio State job.
Maybe so.
How about that?
Maybe so.
That's only after Vrabel gets Nick
Lombardies.
Westbrook-Akine through the Hall of Fame stage of his career.
Yep. Really looking forward to that. We'll keep you updated throughout the day here on 102.5 The Game on NFL free agency. I believe the legal tampering period officially beginning at 11 a.m. Central Time today. So I would expect lots of deals to roll in after that. We'll keep you updated throughout the day. That does it for us today. Hope everybody has a wonderful rest of their Monday. Chasing Big Joe is coming up next. You're listening to 102.5, 106.3 The Game.